In the shadows of global politics lies a truth so explosive it's been hidden in plain sight for decades. U.S. aid, America's friendly face of foreign aid, harbors a secret that's reshaping nations, toppling leaders, and fighting silent wars.
USAID is one of the most disturbing organizations in the entire federal government. It may rank number one, in fact. USAID is under the cloak of being a humanitarian aid organization designed to advance U.S. foreign policy, is assigned the dirtiest tasks that the State Department can't get caught doing, and that used to be done directly by the CIA. But USAID is able to act as essentially a covert operations division in the way that the CIA used to.
What happens when a humanitarian aid becomes a weapon of mass deception? You're about to find out. A sunny day in 1961, President Kennedy stands at a podium announcing a new beacon of American generosity, the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID. The crowd applauds, journalists snap photos, and across America, citizens beam with pride. Their country would now help feed hungry children, build schools, and fight poverty worldwide. What a beautiful story. Or so everyone thought. But beneath this heartwarming facade lurks something far more intriguing. While grandmothers baked cookies for USAID fundraisers and schoolchildren collected pennies for the cause, the agency was quietly becoming one of Washington's most powerful foreign policy weapons. Talk about a plot twist. Let's roll back the tape to those early years. USAID started with a modest budget of $400 million. Fast forward to today, and we're talking billions. $40 billion in 2023 alone, and $50 billion allocated in 2025. That's quite the allowance for humanitarian work, isn't it? But here's the thing. Congress, supposedly watching the nation's wallet, kept signing bigger and bigger checks without asking too many questions. You'd think someone might have raised an eyebrow when certain development projects perfectly aligned with Cold War strategic interests. The truth started leaking out like water from a cracked dam. Remember those agricultural programs in Latin America during the 60s and 70s? Turns out many were convenient covers for gathering intelligence and supporting anti-communist operations. Those economic advisors flying to Southeast Asia? Some were doing more than crunching numbers. By the 1970s, Senator William Fulbright finally called it what it was. USAID had become an element of the military security operation. But by then, the agency was too deeply embedded in America's foreign policy machinery to untangle. It had offices in dozens of countries, partnerships with countless organizations, and a web of influence that would make a spider jealous. USAID actually does deliver humanitarian aid. Those schools get built. Those hungry children get fed. Those disasters receive relief. It's like a magician showing you the right hand while the left hand does something entirely different. The agency masterfully balanced genuine development work with what former officials have called strategic influence operations. Today, USAID operates in over 100 countries. Its projects range from fighting malaria to promoting democracy. It's got economic leverage, political influence, and the perfect humanitarian cover story. Every successful humanitarian project builds trust, opens doors, and creates networks that can be activated for other purposes. It's a bit like being the popular kid in school who everyone trusts, except this popular kid sometimes carries out national security objectives between helping with homework. And that, friends, is how a humanitarian agency became America's most brilliant foreign policy Trojan horse. As they say, the road to geopolitical influence is paved with good intentions, or at least the appearance of them. In April 2002, something extraordinary happened in Venezuela. President Hugo Chavez was ousted from power. For 47 hours, The official story? A spontaneous uprising of freedom-loving citizens. But like any good mystery, there's always more beneath the surface. Let's rewind the tape a bit. Just months before Chavez's brief removal, USAID's Office of Transition Initiatives, or OTI, had set up shop in Caracas. Coincidence? Well, declassified documents tell a different story. Through its Venezuela program, USAID channeled millions into opposition groups, civil society organizations, and media outlets critical of Chavez. Think of it as political theater where USAID played both stage director and props manager. While publicly supporting democracy promotion, the agency was busy behind the curtain. They funded workshops for opposition leaders, bankrolled anti-Chavez television shows, and even helped organize those massive street protests that preceded the coup attempt. But Venezuela wasn't a one-off performance. It was more like a dress rehearsal for a show that would tour globally. The same script played out in Haiti in 2004, Madagascar in 2009, and Honduras in 2009. Remember those innocent-sounding leadership training programs? They often used the same playbook as the famous color revolutions in Eastern Europe. Young activists would receive training in nonviolent resistance, social media campaigns, and protest organizations, all under the banner of civic education. In Venezuela alone, USAID spent over $40 million between 2002 and 2004 on democracy promotion. That's a lot of cash for civic education, isn't it? The money flowed through a complex web of contractors, NGOs, and local organizations, making it nearly impossible to track. But the real kicker? All this happened while USAID maintained its public image as a purely humanitarian organization. It's like finding out your local librarian is secretly a ninja. Except this ninja carries a budget of billions and can influence international politics. When challenged, USAID officials stuck to their script. They're just promoting democracy and civil society. But as one Venezuelan opposition leader later admitted, we received training and support that went far beyond simple civic education. And so the show goes on. USAID continues its double act: humanitarian helper by day, regime change facilitator by, also day. They're just really good at multitasking.
So post 2021, so this is last year, 2024, we spent $697 million of the taxpayers' dollars in Afghanistan, including $534,719,000 in change from USAID in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is ruled by folks named Sarayuddin Haqqani. Haqqani network mean anything to anybody in the room? How about Abdullah bin Laden? Who gets some of that money? Does that name ring a bell to anybody in the room? Your money, $697 million annually, plus the shipments of cash funds madrasas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, ISIS Khorasan, terrorist training camps. That's what it's funding.
In 2025, reports surfaced that USAID's vetting processes had gaping holes, allowing funds to slip into the wrong hands. The Office of Inspector General highlighted that, due to staff furloughs and administrative chaos, the counterterrorism vetting unit was essentially non-operational. This left the door wide open for U.S.-designated terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Taliban to benefit from American taxpayer dollars. Imagine the irony. A program designed to promote peace and stability ends up bankrolling the very chaos it seeks to eliminate. It's as if the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Or worse, the left hand is funding the right hand's mischief. This debacle has not only tarnished USAID's reputation, but also raised serious questions about the efficacy of foreign aid in conflict zones. How can we ensure that our benevolent efforts don't boomerang back as security threats? It's a classic case of no good deed goes unpunished. While the world watched Russia and America square off over missiles and military bases, another battle was quietly raging. One fought with dollars, development projects, and democracy promotion. Welcome to the silent war between USAID and Russia. Remember those former Soviet states after the USSR collapsed? USAID swooped in faster than you can say freedom. By 1994, they'd set up shop in nearly every former Soviet republic: Kazakhstan, Georgia, Ukraine. They all got the USAID treatment. But this wasn't just about helping transition to market economies. It was about influence, and Russia knew it. Moscow wasn't amused. Putin especially saw US aid's presence in Russia's near abroad as nothing short of diplomatic encirclement, and he wasn't entirely wrong. Take Ukraine, for instance. Before the 2004 Orange Revolution, US aid had pumped millions into civil society development. They funded independent media, supported election monitoring groups, and trained activists. When thousands flooded the streets of Kiev wearing orange, Russia saw US aid's fingerprints all over it. But the real chess match was Central Asia. While US aid was building schools and promoting good governance in Kyrgyzstan, Russia was offering military bases and energy deals. It was like two parents trying to win the kids' affection after a divorce. Except these kids had nuclear power plants and strategic resources. The tension peaked in 2012 when Russia finally kicked US aid out of its territory. The official reason? Attempting to influence political processes. Moscow had caught on to those democracy promotion programs that somehow always seemed to benefit anti-Kremlin groups. But here's the plot twist. Getting kicked out of Russia might have been exactly what US aid wanted. Now they could focus entirely on surrounding states without the pretense of playing nice with Moscow. Talk about a strategic retreat. Today, this silent battle continues in places like Armenia, Moldova, and the Central Asian republics. US aid funds independent media outlets that happen to be critical of Russian influence. They support civil society groups that mysteriously align with Western interests. Meanwhile, Russia counters with its own soft power tools, just with less paperwork and a more direct approach. A high-stakes game of influence where project proposals are weapons and grant money is ammunition. And the best part? Most people don't even know it's happening. Now that's what you call a silent battleground. Imagine this. You're playing a game of Monopoly. But one player secretly controls the bank. They hand out cash to their friends, bankrupt their opponents, and rig the rules in their favor. That's exactly what US aid has been doing on the global stage, except it's not a game, and the stakes are way higher than Park Place. US aid's economic warfare isn't about bombs or bullets. It's about money, influence, and power. On the surface, it's all about development and aid. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find a web of economic strategies designed to reshape entire nations. Take, for example, the way US aid funnels billions into countries under the guise of economic reform. Sounds great, right? Those reforms often come with strings attached, strings that tie those countries closer to US interests. In 2025, a bombshell report revealed just how far this economic warfare had gone. Auditors discovered that US aid had mismanaged over $2 billion in funds, with money disappearing into black holes of corruption, failed projects, and questionable deals. One project in a developing country was supposed to build roads and boost local economies. Instead, the roads led nowhere, and the money vanished into the pockets of corrupt officials. Oops. But the mismanagement wasn't just about wasted cash. It was about control. By flooding economies with US dollars, US aid could manipulate markets, weaken local industries, and create dependency. It's like giving someone a fish instead of teaching them to fish, except you also own the pond. And let's not forget the irony. While US aid was preaching transparency and good governance abroad, its own house was a mess. The 2025 report exposed a lack of oversight, with Congress often left in the dark about where the money was going. It's like finding out your math teacher failed basic arithmetic. So what's the big picture? US aid's economic warfare isn't just about helping or hurting. It's about shaping the world to fit a specific agenda. And while it's done some good, the 2025 revelations remind us that even the most well-intentioned tools can be double-edged swords.
Elon Musk, you didn't create U.S. aid. The United States Congress did for the American people. And just like Elon Musk did not create U.S. aid, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him.
Let's cut to the chase. US aid's ultimate agenda isn't just about building schools or handing out food. It's about power, global power. Think of it as a chess game where the US is always trying to stay 3 moves ahead. But in 2025, the world finally started pushing back. And the game got a lot more complicated. For decades, U.S. aid operated under the radar using its humanitarian image to mask its deeper goals. The agenda? To spread American influence, promote free market capitalism, and ensure that countries aligned with U.S. interests. It's like a global PR campaign, except instead of selling soda, they're selling a way of life. But here's the thing, not everyone wants to buy what they're selling. In 2025, the cracks in USAID's facade became clear, with Doge and Elon Musk deep diving into their practices and spending. Whistleblowers, investigative journalists, and even some former USAID employees started speaking out. They revealed how the agency's projects often prioritized political goals over actual development. From Venezuela to Ukraine, this organization has been present at every major regime change in the last 30 years. Coincidence? Think again. So, where does USAID stand now? In a word, diminished. While it might still exist, its activities are far more limited, and its reputation is tarnished. The era of unchecked influence is over, replaced by a world that's far more skeptical of America's intentions. Because if USAID is really as corrupt as the critics claim, and shutting it down isn't just a political move, it's a reckoning, and one that is long overdue. And in case you're wondering, USAID isn't the only scandal lurking in the shadows. They are everywhere, and if you want to see another one exposed, check out this video next. Like, share, subscribe, and as always, seek the truth and stay free, my friends.